Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're going to get into it with some Aggro Dragon. Aggro Dragon has been doing pretty well on ladder currently, as most Aggro Drakes do, and now that's kind of found a footing with decent Storm through Fan of Hime, we're really able to generate a lot of value. So Fan of Hime being our primary card here, a 1-drop gold amulet, engage 3, summon Otahime's bodyguard, select a card from your hand and discard it. So it does have a little bit of a cost associated, but it does summon a 3-drop 2/2 ward storm follower, which is great amounts of value. Basically turning anything into your hand into an instant ward, ward and storm, giving you a lot of nice value. Then otherwise, you're just running a lot of nice early game stuff in Searing Fire Newt and Little Dragon Nanny. Nanny gets you nice good value with Fire Drake Whelp, which gives you Intimidate. Really nice value there. Ruby is basically a draw engine card. Apollo is our clear card. Vigilant Detective, I haven't found myself using it too much, but Detective's Lens, destroy this card, select enemy fallen field and remove ward from it. Can potentially open up other ways to go for lethal, so it's not all bad. It also is just good fodder for Fan of Hime. Enyafa, Windrider, another nice Storm one. When you're in Overflow, it gains Intimidate and Storm. Very similar to Trencher here, which is also Overflow, gains Storm. So these cards are really good in the mid to late game, where you're just kind of throwing your last lot of Storm to the board. Marion is our booster, so it just buffs our Otahimes and other low-cost followers to then do more damage. Fledging is our removal with a built-in follower destruction. And then Forte and Gyaru and Warrior of the Deep and Olivia is our late-game engine. Forte being our big, easy Intimidate Storm follower. Olivia generating value off its super evolves, just giving you more board states, along with a little bit of draw and restore. I would probably run 3 of this over the Gyaru, but Gyaru is a good substitute if you are short on Olivia's like I am, as Gyaru does generate good value with on board, giving you 3 nice bodies, 2 potential removals, and a Storm follower out of its super evolve. And then Warrior of the Deep, just generically good, deal 6 damage to the enemy leader. You can basically just play this to close out games, and that's usually how I like to use it. So overall, very solid deck, has been performing very well, and we're going to get right into the gameplay. So our first matchup here is the very popular Swordcraft. Another deck that is just really popular. Swordcraft is definitely a pretty easy deck to overall climb with. This deck is also in the same vein. These are pretty evenly matched, I find, most of the time. Although I find if you can go for the early Otohime, you can actually take a lot of the early game fairly easily. We don't end up getting too much here. Strike the Dragon here, we can easily clear this 1/1. Not really any issue. Sometimes I do like to drop the early play point and go for Nanny though, as going for the early Nanny play is pretty valuable. This time around, we don't end up with Otohime early, which is a bit rough. Early Otohime is usually what you want to focus on getting. But for the most part, these Intimidate Storms should do some pretty good value for me. We finally see the Otohime, but I am just going to Apollo this now and get the extra damage in, holding on to that play point for the potential Forte play. Where you pretty much have to decide here, do we decide we have to eat some damage or not? I end up just going for the removal, which I think is fine. We've got our Evo set up for the Intimidate follower, so we can just use the Fire Drake Whelp here to get extra damage in. We get him very close to a lethal range with double Forte. So it's really just a matter of can they ward me out before I can go for lethal? Or are they going to focus on trying to remove followers instead while healing up? But they're going to have a hard time dealing with the Intimidate follower if they don't have hard removal. Which fortunately it doesn't look like they really have here. So we can now just drop Forte. We also still have an Evo point, so we can EV the Forte and we can go for straight damage. Getting a solid 12 damage from board is insanely good here. There isn't too many things that could easily lethal me here. I don't think there's anything at all, honestly, so they do end up just conceding their match. Next up, we have Forest, another deck that you see pretty often when you're playing around these days. Not as often as many other crafts, but when you see Forest, it's always doing the same sort of roach shenanigans, so always expect that. This deck handles it pretty well though. Fan of Otohime generating wards to eat the followers is really valuable. And this deck typically can curve out pretty well. You're really just trying to mulligan for that Otohime play and any other low followers you can get. And then just playing as much to board as you kind of can, as fast as you can, to generate extra value by hitting face and forcing them to have to trade into them. That way you're always the aggressor in the match. So we get to go for the Otohime here, we get to hit. Already getting 4 damage on turn 3 is a solid point to be at. Whether this deck holds up in the following expansion, we'll see, but Honestly, Aggro Dragon, very, very good at the moment. Not quite as good as Sword, of course. Sword is still the top aggro deck, but definitely a really nice one to play. And considering what you can run in it, you could actually get away with running nothing but Forte as far as legendaries go and potentially make it reasonably budget orientated. As just Forte isn't that bad to have. So they end up getting a full clear on me. Not that that's too much of a threat here. We pretty much just get to the same thing. We get to do the Otahime play, throw some stuff away, and then generate more value. We've already got them down to 6 health after this bodyguard, so it's really not a lot. We can kill them all already deep, we can kill them with Gyaru. As long as they're not healing up, we're in a pretty nice spot. They do end up just having to send another Apollo to clear the Intimidate, which isn't a big surprise. We are now just 2 damage off a potential lethal, which we don't end up having yet, which is unfortunate. Any storm draw that was low cost, any booster draw would have been good. Another teammate bodyguard wouldn't have been enough, but that's okay. But we set up nice for Warrior of the Deep, so now it means even with a little bit of healing, they shouldn't be able to get out of lethal range. Not easily. We do end up having to take... We end up in a really rough spot though. We are 1 play point off being able to kill them, and fortunately we do end up top decking the Ravishing, which does secure us a pretty easy lethal either way. Plus, with them being on just 4 health, the Otahime on its own was lethal. We actually didn't end up needing the boost. Completely missing that, but being up to 8 damage on that burst, really nice. And now our final matchup here is going to be against Haven. So this deck carried me from B tier into A tier pretty handedly. We were only in a Topaz group, mostly because I D-ranked myself by playing some pretty janky stuff before this initially. I seem to bounce around a lot between Topaz and Sapphire depending on what I'm playing and what I'm messing around with. This deck though, I have actually made it back into Ruby no issue, climbing with this deck after this. It's just that these few matches were taken from early in the run. So Searing Dragonute again on turn 2, really solid, just getting it out there. Haven is a craft that's kind of 50-50 for me, I'm not gonna lie. It's a tricky one. Sometimes they can ward you out really hard, and that can kind of screw you over. But if they end up having to play on the slower side, you can aggro them down fast enough, like you're seeing here. But we're just getting really nice value and being able to just kind of hit. I do end up killing the Priest because I know that the Priest Evo is kind of threatening and it's not something I want to have to deal with. I could have went for the extra damage, but unfortunately they end up just back-to-back Priesting. Running double Priest. Not something you like to see. So now we do have to kind of deal with this, which is a little annoying. Luckily Fledgling does a pretty good job. We are playing again on the slower side in this match. There's not a lot I can do here. We're just going to kind of wait, bide our time, get to that Gyaru play eventually, and hope that'll secure us lethal. So I end up with the Forte. Unfortunately, that does mean I have to Evo the 2-2 to get over the ward. But it does at least secure us another 5 damage to face and put 2 bodies on board, kind of forcing out a potential removal play, which we do see with the Unholy Vessel. Which is great because we're actually going into our overflow turn, which means we do get Trencher Evo for even more damage. I was tempted to go for the Super Evo, but decided against it in favor of the fact that we already have 1 Gyaru, and potentially having another Gyaru play might actually secure us lethal if we end up getting it. So they go for their own Super Evo, not really threatening at all. Gyaru here will just full clear and deal 4 damage to face. No issue at all, while retaining every single body on board, which should get us pretty close to a potential lethal next turn. Although we do really need to draw something that can get us there, because right now our hand looks pretty dire in that situation. They don't know that, of course, but we don't actually have any way to do anything. So we're kind of just floating on what we have until we can find something. Fortunately, a second Gyaru play doesn't quite get us lethal, but gets us very... Actually, it does get us lethal. Sorry, my mistake. Gyaru Evo does get us lethal with the 4 damage, and that will just win us the game. I always got to remember the Super Evolve is +1, so... So overall, I've had a decent run with this deck. This will probably be the deck that will carry me most of the way through A tier rank, so not too bad. We'll see if it'll end up carrying me back up to Sapphire. I have a feeling it will. Like I said, I've pretty easily made it back into Ruby out of Topaz. Like, it just took a few win streaks to get there, because it's a pain in the ass to get your group back up. It seems very easy to drop a group, but it's a bit harder to raise your group overall. You need really nice win streaks to get a nice group up quickly. And to stick in that group can be a pain in the ass if you end up just playing something memey or jank. But overall, this deck, great, phenomenal. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And until next time, guys, I'll see you then.